Well, I think this is really refreshing, and because human data from psychometrics, which is our particular field of expertise, tells us it's difficult, if not impossible, to proceduralize good behavior. Different regulators have tried over the years, and maybe you get some short-term improvement in behaviors and attitudes, but it's fundamentally it's culture that is critical. And culture, the culture of an organization, just the accepted norms in behavior and attitude, is set by leadership, both good and bad, in fact. And maybe there are some leadership teams that don't really think about the culture that they're creating, but they're nevertheless creating one. It just takes determined effort to foster trust. It takes effort to foster an environment that thinks deeply and proactively rather than fast and reactively. It takes an effort to look for a sustainable future rather than perhaps those seductive short-term gains. So Bijou is really seeking all of these things in organizations. And there's an excellent book from a chap called Daniel Kahneman, who won the Nobel Economic Science Prize. It's called Thinking Fast and Slow. And as I'm exploring Project Bijou, it just strikes me that there's a bit of that in there. The encouragement to think slow, as in to think to the long-term future and think about the environment that organizations are creating, not just the quick tick box wins. So I think the project is spot on. And just to expand that in terms of the human data, where we look, so the personality parts of human data are only part of the whole picture. So there are some personalities that lend themselves to a good controlled environment, as some of you will know, but there's far more to it than that. It's leadership factors that we will measure as well, including ambition and that desire to achieve long-term success, and the mindset that goes with that when compared, for example, with a defeatist mindset. Leaders that just give up and assume it's going to go wrong generally achieve that very end. So whether it's ambition or commitment skill or awareness, particularly in this setting, that awareness skill is crucial, the ability to spot problems coming and take evasive action, or in fact maybe solving skill, resolution skill. All of those four leadership factors are crucial for ensuring not just protection, but long-term success in any organization. And that includes regulatory data protection type success. So I think Bijou is spot on. It's just taking the cultural factors predominantly rather than perhaps some prescriptive tick box approaches to regulation. I think the islands have three main opportunities here. The first is cooperation. If we can't cooperate well in a small community like ours, then nowhere can. So for example, the ability to mentor across different disciplines is that bit easier in a small community. We can easily mix. You can have a manufacturing business 2 minutes away from a legal business and essentially cross-fertilize ideas and learn from each other. And that's a massive opportunity for us in the islands. It's one that we champion. In fact, wherever I can, I'll connect people together from very different disciplines and sectors to learn from each other. Now, to achieve that sort of cooperation, it just challenges our usual competitive habits. We sort of need to start to see each other potentially as cooperative colleagues, perhaps, rather than people who are trying to eat our lunch. And of course, there's always going to be an element of competition, but the opportunity to think beyond just the immediate needs in a more cooperative way is a great opportunity for us. The second is adding value. In fact, because the idea of protecting data and protecting our client bases and protecting our work builds trust and confidence. In other words, an investment in good data protection and cultural factors isn't just a cost that we kind of need to grumpily accept. It adds value to our businesses and organizations. So if we take an example, ethics, for example, we could ask ourselves, is investing in strong and good ethics a value add to our business, or just something that has to happen because it just must? And in fact, I'd argue that ethics, a highly ethical organization, adds value, builds confidence in its customer base. And in fact, I'd argue, trust is a more sustainable approach to our long-term success than just those quick wins. So cooperation, adding value. And the third is that the islands have a great opportunity to be an exemplar, an example for the rest of the world if we choose to think bigger than just our immediate environment. It's a great test bed. We're a little bit like a petri dish in the globe. It's a great test bed for the rest of the world. So if we choose to, we can set the tone where even off-island group companies that we're part of will observe and experience excellence in our islands, and in fact potentially set the tone and the scene for a more global movement. And that in fact opens doors to opportunity for business, opportunity for promotion, and potentially opportunity to attract some great talent here. So opportunities, I think, are cooperation, adding value, and being an exemplar. Okay, well, I think it's important to understand that culture is a living, organic thing. And I do this sometimes as well, whilst we can spend some time thinking about cultural words on walls and so on, if they just stay on the wall, if they stay fixed in place, then that's not really culture, that's just merely an exercise. So it's crucial that leaders think about the living, breathingness of all of this stuff. If you think about cultures in a petri dish, not too long, but cultures in a petri dish, of course, are moving, they're living. And so culture does grow. And the best cultures are agile, they are orientated towards present day realities and anticipated future realities rather than immersed in what has been in the past. You can see why I do struggle sometimes when organisations try to really proceduralise culture. It's once it's written, it's kind of done. So first, see it as a living thing, a living organic thing. Now, like all living things, the best way to communicate something living is through stories. So tactic one is this, to tell some stories to your organisation. Maybe even put yourself through the customer journey. How does your customer experience your organisation, your business perhaps, right from first contact all the way through to leaving, of course, highly satisfied. But where are the opportunities to bring some really good protective, maybe even data value adding measures, and where are the risks, where might those lie? And so tell some stories. And the second is to use your own personal experiences to bring application in your own organisation to life. Again, it's all about bringing life. So I remember, for example, just in the run up to Mother's Day recently, that Moonpig had a brilliant campaign where they just asked all of their customers if they wanted to be removed from Mother's Day kind of messages in what might have been quite a difficult day for some, just to click a box and be taken out of their usual communications. And I thought that was a very smart and sensitive thing to do. And that personal experience just made me think about how I'm using my own personal data myself, and in fact how I'm using my clients' data and how I'm connecting with them. Am I applying the same sense of customer care with data very much in mind? So tell some stories and use your own personal experiences, again, to help bring this all to life. And the third is to be very deliberate about your language. And so I'm working with a team at the moment very enjoyably. We met recently on a Monday, and we just had some one-to-one catch-ups on a Monday. The first person I met just asked how his day was going, and his response was, "I just hate Mondays, Phil. Really don't enjoy Mondays." And that's how our conversation mostly went. The very next person, the second person, came in and he said, "Look, beaming, I love Mondays, really enjoy things." And in fact, that set the tone for our conversation. Framing the way we talk about data, data protection, regulation and compliance will really influence how people receive the communication. If we communicate that it's a chore, tick box, costly expense, and all of those sorts of negative tones, that's how our people will receive it. If instead we frame these issues positively, there's an opportunity here to add value, we can cooperate, we can really make a difference here positively, that is how our people will receive it. So we need to be deliberate and careful, in fact, about the language that we use. So tell some stories, make it come alive. Use your personal experiences, make it come alive. And use some positive framing, positive language just to keep it alive.